When the light of Rome faded from the British Isles, a shadow fell across the land. Roads that once carried legions turned to dust. Cities that once rang with Latin voices became hollow echoes of a forgotten world. For 4 centuries, Britain had lived under Roman law and order, a province of empire, connected to the civilized world. But when the legions withdrew in the early 5th century, the island was left defenseless, its people uncertain, its future unknown. Out of this silence, new voices began to rise, voices of survival, of war, and of legend. This is the story of a land reborn in darkness. This is the Dark Ages of Britain. In the early 400s, the mighty empire that had ruled Britain for generations collapsed. With Rome gone, the island was left exposed, its trade broken, its leaders divided. The cities of Londinium, Verulamium, and Eboracum decayed. The villas of noblemen turned to ruins. From across the North Sea came new settlers, Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, drawn by empty lands and promise of power. At first, they were hired as mercenaries to fight off raiders. But soon, they became conquerors. The native Britons, descendants of Celts and Romans alike, fled west into the mountains of Wales and Cornwall. There, they spoke of a warrior king who would one day return to unite them, Arthur, the once and future king. Britain was no longer a province. It was a fractured island, torn by ambition and survival. By the 6th century, new realms had risen across the land. The Saxons ruled the south, the Angles the north and east, and the Jutes held Kent. The names of Rome faded from the map. Londinium became London. Eboracum became York. Yet amid this chaos, hope returned in the form of faith. Christianity spread again, carried by missionaries like St. Columba from Iona and St. Augustine to Canterbury. Monasteries rose on remote islands and windy cliffs, sanctuaries of learning, where monks copied ancient texts and kept knowledge alive. In those small candlelit rooms, civilization survived the storm. The kingdoms of Wessex, Mercia, and Northumbria began to dominate the land. They fought each other for power, yet through their struggles, a new culture was taking shape, one that would become the foundation of England. In the late 8th century, the sea brought a new terror. Longships with dragon heads cut through the waves, their sails blood-red against the mist. The Vikings had come. Their first blow fell on Lindisfarne, a holy island where monks prayed in peace. The invaders showed no mercy. To the people of Britain, it felt like the end of days. But this was only the beginning. For 2 centuries, Norse raiders plundered, settled, and ruled parts of Britain. The Danelaw, a land governed by Viking law, stretched across the east. In this clash of cultures, the idea of England was born. One man rose to defend it, Alfred of Wessex, later called Alfred the Great. He built fortresses, reformed laws, and created a navy to fight the Viking tide. But more than a warrior, Alfred was a scholar. He believed that learning could save his people as much as the sword. Under Alfred, the first vision of an English nation emerged, a people united by language, faith, and purpose. By the 10th century, the bloodshed began to fade. Viking settlers became farmers, traders, and neighbors. Their children spoke the same tongue as the Saxons, prayed to the same God, and called this land home. Out of centuries of division, one king brought unity, Ethelstan, grandson of Alfred. For the first time, the scattered kingdoms of Wessex, Mercia, and Northumbria stood under one banner. England, the land of the English. But peace was fragile. New invasions loomed, and the scars of the Dark Ages would never fully heal. Yet Britain had changed forever. From the ruins of empire and war had risen a nation, not Roman, not Saxon, but something entirely new. The phrase Dark Ages came from later historians, looking back and seeing only decay. But for those who lived through it, it was not darkness, it was transformation. It was the age of Beowulf, of kings and monsters, of courage and fate. It was the age of saints and scholars who carried faith across wild frontiers. And it was the age of myths, Arthur, Merlin, and Camelot. Stories that blended truth with dream and gave hope to generations who longed for order in chaos. The darkness was real, but so was the light within it. The Dark Ages ended not with the stroke of a sword, but with the turning of a page. From ruin came resilience. From chaos, culture. From fear, faith. The Britain that emerged was no longer a lost corner of a fallen empire. It was a living, breathing civilization of its own. Its roads may have broken, its temples fallen, but its spirit endured. From those centuries of struggle came a people who would one day rule an empire, but whose strength was born in the shadows of the past. The Dark Ages of Britain were not the fall of civilization. They were its rebirth. This is Legends of Britain, where history lives and the past still speaks.